Yeah. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kada, and I will be your MC for today's program, Live as a SSS Student. Now, before we begin, I'd like to inform you there will be a Q&A following our panel discussion. So feel free to send in your questions via slido.com using the event code hashtag as SSS-2023. Now, please allow me to introduce our speaker, Assistant Professor Walid Abdullah. And over to you, Prof. Walid.
Hello, everyone. So welcome to today's session. Thank you for being with us live. And today we will be having a conversation between Kada and myself. So I just wanted to introduce myself first before I let Kada ask the questions. So I am an assistant professor at the Public Policy and Global Affairs program here. And I am the assistant chair of students for the School of Social Sciences. And I'll be happy to take any questions at all on SSS, on our school, on the specific programs within the school, if you have any queries or if you're unclear about anything.
And thank you, Prof. Walid. So perhaps we can start off the question to give our audience a better understanding. What is the School of Social Sciences?
Right. So maybe a more basic question would be, what is the social sciences, right? And a very basic definition would be, it is the study of human beings and societies and how they interact and pertain to each other. And that is a very basic definition of the social sciences. And of course, there are some gray areas, which ones are the sciences, which ones are the social sciences, but essentially it involves the study of human beings. And in NTU, the School of Social Sciences specifically, we have 4 programs in the School of Social Sciences. So we have economics, we have public policy and global affairs, we have sociology, and we have psychology. And Kada is from psychology. And I'll just briefly speak about each program. And we have the specific program talks later on. So please do attend those talks and you'll get a more in-depth idea of what each program and each discipline is about. So economics is basically, I think a lot of you will be familiar with it. Economics is the study of how the economy functions, both at the macro and micro levels. So at the macro level, think about government spending and how the government can best utilize its resources. At the micro level, it will be how firms behave, when do they employ people, when do they lay people off, and how consumers also, individuals, make decisions about what to buy, when to invest, and so on. So these are very basic and cursory definitions or understandings, by the way. And moving on to psychology, I think Kada is in a better position to talk about psychology. So I'll ask him to talk about psychology after I'm done with sociology and public policy and global affairs. So let's make this more conversational, okay? So public policy and global affairs is the equivalent of politics or political science in other universities. So it's essentially the same. So we study both domestic politics of individual countries. So why Trump got elected in 2016, why UMNO fell in 2018 in Malaysia, why is the PAP dominant and resilient in Singapore until 2023? And then we compare across these countries, but we also study international relations. So when do international institutions work? When do they not work? Why do countries go to war? When do they not go to war? And sociology will be the study of society. So sociology and political science or public policy and global affairs are really sister subjects. So if politics analyzes global phenomenon through the lens of the state and through the lens of policy making, sociology analyzes those same phenomenon through the lens of society. So for instance, inequality. How do you explain inequality? What are the consequences of inequality? And what essentially it goes back to what can we do about inequality as well. And before Kada talks about psychology, I wanted to say that all of these 4 disciplines, they complement each other. And to really have a better understanding of humans, you really need the combination of each discipline, each of these 4 disciplines, for us to really understand how the world works. So Kada, you want to elaborate on psychology?
Yes, thank you so much. And beyond to what Prof. Walid mentioned about how social sciences, it is part of our day-to-day living itself. For psychology, we look at the study of human behavior and mental processes in which why do certain people behave in a certain manner, what influences our thinking. And these itself guides our behavior and even decision-making. We see this process is something that we go about every day. And just like sociology, economics, and public policy and global affairs, these field of social sciences shape our day-to-day living. And at this point in time, my question for Prof. Walid would be, as a professor teaching public policy and global affairs, how would you say that social sciences is going to be relevant in the years to come, especially as we are moving on towards a field of technology?
Okay, excellent question. So I would say, right, if you think about the greatest challenges that are facing humanity, and there are many challenges that are facing humanity, and I would say at the top of the list, right, there are three. So one is obviously climate change. The other is political polarization or polarization of society in general. So societal political polarization. And the third would be inequality. Now, two of these three problems, the solutions lie firmly in the domain of social sciences, right? Inequality and polarization. Understanding it, you don't need more technological tools. Of course, technology and data will always be useful, but they are tools ultimately. To really understand these problems, you need the social sciences, right? And even for climate change, which is in the domain of the environmental sciences or the sciences, the impact of climate change on population, on psychological well-being, Kada, there's such a thing as climate anxieties among young people, for instance. To fully comprehend the scale of climate change, you need a lot of the social sciences as well. We are at a different stage in the development of human history when it comes to academia. I think for the longest time, there was a sidelining of the social sciences because the focus was on the STEM fields. But now I think every university, every employer, every government in the world recognizes that the social sciences are an integral part of understanding the world, of forming, developing, and producing knowledge. Together with the STEM, of course, the two are, you cannot separate the two from each other, right? And just based on Kada's own explanation, right? When we want to understand a phenomenon, which is extremely important to understand, the election of Trump, for instance. When we want to understand that, then we need to think of, first of all, what were the economic conditions that made a lot of people vote for this seemingly obnoxious and out of touch person, right? So that's the first thing. So the economic conditions. Second, what was the psychology of voters? And we need to understand how voters think, right? Third, what were the societal conditions? What was the level of inequality? And finally, you need to understand what was the level of polarization in terms of the culture wars. So to understand one important phenomenon, you need a combination of the four disciplines within social sciences as NTU SSS offers it. So really, if you want to, and Kada's question is something that we get a lot. How are social sciences relevant? Well, they are relevant in every single day of our life, right? Next week, the budget will be announced in Singapore, right? It will be discussed and debated in Parliament, right? That pertains to the economy. And part of the budget will be about people. I mean, that is in the domain of public policy as well. And it's about people, how it affects society, and you need sociology as well to understand how people behave in response to incentives. You need psychology. So social sciences is something that you cannot divorce from everyday realities. So that will be my answer, Kana.
Thank you so much, Prof. Walid. And we see how this is all tying back to what we are here for today, especially with our audience who are trying to understand more about how these disciplines will be brought over to our prospective students and going into the life of a School of Social Sciences student. So without further ado, let's delve deeper into it. One of the most popular questions that we always hear from students is, are there any opportunities for overseas exchange? And I would like to bring that question over to you, Prof. Walid.
Yes, there are numerous. So what I would say is, in NTU, of course, studies is important, and we will not lie. We make no apologies for it. We are a university. We emphasize a lot on academics, but we also emphasize a lot outside the classroom as well, in the holistic development of the students, right? So we have opportunities for CCAs. There are numerous CCAs, all sorts of CCAs, whether it's service, whether it's sports, welfare oriented, and so on. So you have that. And of course, you have overseas exchange, which for me is an important part. It's not a necessary part of a student's undergraduate development. There are many students who do not go for overseas exchange, but it's an important part for many other students as well. And we have partner universities from all over the world, right? As of now, we have SSS students in Hong Kong doing an exchange, in even in Taiwan, in China, of course. You have them in US, in the UK, in Scandinavia. We have had students from all over the world come over here as well, because that's how an exchange works, right? So as long as you meet a certain level of academic performance, which is not too hard to get, you will be eligible for exchange. And there are numerous universities, and think about the best universities in the world. We have our students doing exchange there, right? Right now, just my own students, some of them are in King's College, some of them are in the University of Hong Kong, some of them are in America. So these are just my own students. The SSS community, you have even many more options. Related to that, Kada, is a lot of times people ask about overseas exchange, and then they ask about, are there research opportunities? Are there internship opportunities as well, right? So for undergrad students, we have what is called the Eureka. And Kada, you did a Eureka, right? Yeah,
Yes,
so I will ask you to talk about this. I think it's more meaningful for you to talk about it. And there are research opportunities, as Kada will talk about, and there are many internship opportunities as well. And internship is compulsory. By the time you guys come in, it is compulsory for every SSS student, right? So you will be forced to go on internships essentially, and this is something that's extremely good for your development. And this is not something that we did willy-nilly. This was done after many years of consultation with industries, many years of research, and we came to the conclusion that ultimately an internship experience is a crucial part of today's job market, and we want our students to be best prepared. We want to develop them holistically. We want them to be prepared for the job market as well. So we will have all of this out of classroom opportunities, and students can be rest assured if they enter SSS, we will give them all these platforms. So Kada, you want to talk a little bit about Eureka?
sure. For Eureka, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the term, it basically stands for the undergraduate research experience on campus. The Eureka program is one of the selling features that I would say as a student back while I was choosing university. This is one of the things that drew me into NTU. Now, you see, in Eureka itself, what happens is that students, you get to propose a research topic or can choose an existing research project with one of the professors within NTU. These projects itself, now, it is not like your typical school assignment. In fact, it is something that you dive right from the beginning as to what research is for everyone. Now, this includes from the very start to the very end of research, from recruiting from coming out of your own theoretical frameworks to coming to your own getting your own participants, applying for research grants even, and working out with the professor, how can we then analyze the results together? Now, personally, I had a chance to work with a professor from the National Institute of Education, NIE, and we had a chance to work with Ministry of Education at the ground level with the school teachers and students. How can we then influence both teachers and students in enhancing their motivation level to teach and to learn? Now, most of the time in our primary school, secondary school, perhaps from junior college or polytechnic, most of the time we may not have the chance to go beyond the textbook. Going into the applied level of research was something that was eye-opening. And these results is not something that you kept to yourself at the end of the day, because we also have the opportunity to present it at conferences. And the one that I attended was the International Conference of Undergraduate Research, ICO, in which you present to a wider international audience, speakers and researchers from all over from the world. They have a chance to ask questions, and you have a chance to also interact and find out what are their perspectives on your research methodology. This research itself, I believe it is something that most students would appreciate for. And I'm wondering for Prof. Walid, what have been your experiences engaging with students in terms of research?
Right. So I have supervised a few Eureka projects as well. So typically how it goes is the professor lists the topics that they want to do, and then the students, and this list is accessible to anybody, any student within the university, and then they can just choose and apply for that. But I've also had the other way. A few students, they came to me and they say, I have this topic. Are you interested to work with me on this? And I say, yes, I'm more than happy to do that. So I have done that as well. So we've done the reverse, and this is still under Eureka. And Eureka, the way I see it, it's really a preparation for your final year project as well. Your final year project is something that you choose. You come up with the topic, and then you choose a professor. The professor approves it, you go back and forth, and that is how it is throughout the whole year. So you write a 10,000 word dissertation essentially. There's a FYP. Eureka is a mini version of the FYP. And a lot of times our students who do Eureka, I had a student who presented recently, this was from SSS. She presented in December in Dubai. She was invited to present her Eureka research in Dubai at an international conference. This is an undergrad, by the way, so not a postgraduate student, an undergrad. So there are all this, and that was funded by the school as well, as in we do have these grants and some funds to fund our students, and because ultimately it is about developing our students, right? So by the way, on the exchange program, I mentioned the international part, but we also have local exchange programs with NUS, SMU, and SUTD.
And that itself, I would say, with the research, for those of you who are worrying that you may not have beyond just the Eureka program itself, there are also other form of research experience that students can engage themselves into. And like as Prof. Wali has mentioned, the preparation for thesis could be something that gets people thinking about how can I get the exposure to the field of academia. And particularly for the School of Social Sciences, when we're looking at working with individuals, how can we then get that hands-on experience itself? And as a student myself, I would say that there are plenty of research experience beyond just the Eureka program. Perhaps you want to engage more in terms of conducting experiments or research studies without having to write a paper about it. That's where there are research assistant roles as a part-time opportunity that students can enroll themselves into. Personally, I've gone to work in a few couple of research labs, and one of them includes the Center for Research in Child Development with the National Institute of Education, in which we get to run interview studies with children as young as 5 years old, and finding out what is it that helps to shape their development in terms of their spiritual understanding, or for that field of research that I was looking at. How do they come to understand about religious entities or fictional entities, for instance? Now, moving back to what Prof. Wali has mentioned earlier, beyond just research academia and beyond just the overseas exchange opportunities, there is more to student life, and there is a lot to look forward to. And I believe Prof. Walid, who have always heard from students about how many university students love their orientation camps. Prof. Walid, what is one outstanding thing you have heard about orientation camps that you get from the students the most?
Kada, I think that question is actually for you, right? So what is the outstanding thing about student life, maybe in general, right? So we have that. We have those CCAs and camp and the different CCAs. I'll talk about student life for Triple S, and maybe Kada can jump in and then talk about his experience as a student in NTU and as a student in Triple S in general. So in Triple S, we have the Triple S Club, which does a lot of good work. So we have a lot of activities under the Triple S Club, from welfare activities, community engagement programs. So they do one with the school custodians, the people who clean the school. So they have an event every year, a custodian appreciation day. You have the more fun events, Halloween and Valentine's Day and whatever it is. Of course, the orientation program, which is supposed to be fun, and it should be fun, but it's also an important entry for the student into university life. I think it's extremely important. And the school supports that completely. We also have the more intellectual academic events, right? We have talks, we have the Current Affairs Forum. A few years ago, the PPGA sub-club organized the Fake News Forum, and the speakers were now his Minister Edwin Tong, and now the leader of the opposition, Pritam Singh. And it was moderated by a student, and it was lively. It was a very good discussion, very cordial discussion. So we also have the student development events, which are run by the students, right? Like career talks, which are done by the student club. So that's the Triple S Club. And then each major has its own sub club or society. So the psychology students have that. You have the sociology society, you have the PPGA sub club and the econ sub club, and they will do specific events for the specific majors. So there's honestly, in NTU, you will not get bored from student events. There will be an event every week if you want to, right? It's whether it's a hall, a university, a NTUSU, or a Triple S, or one of the sub clubs. There will be something to do for sure. Kada, you wanted to add to that?
Yes, and I agree with you. Each of um the places that you enter, especially in university level, there are tons of orientation camps, and this also means there's tons of opportunities for you to make friends. I would imagine that previously as a year one student, when you enter, and as I entered, there's always this fear of like not knowing who to hang out with, who to have even lunch with, who to chit chat with. These orientation camps run by the student committees. At the faculty level, there is the School of Social Sciences Society, and there's also at the more smaller levels, there's also your course clubs, such as the NTU Psychology Society itself. Now, they run the events, they run welfare events in making sure that our students are well taken care of and they are well networked among each other. Now, orientation camp, as you can see on this slide over here, I had a chance to attend many different camps, including a mix of the virtual ones due to COVID. But now that COVID is lightening up, we have a chance to in-person physical camps. There are such a lot of chances for you to meet people across different courses, across different school backgrounds, and even across different countries. There's always a mix of people from everywhere. And that's the beauty of it. You get to exchange and get to have conversations about who they are, what they want to do. And also, there's a strong chance that you could be making a good project member just from there. Because at the interdisciplinary nature of our modules, there are possibilities that you have to work with someone from another course. And that itself, it's important for us to go for all these orientation camps and having that student life experience beyond just school itself.
Absolutely. And Kada, from the pictures, it seems like you're having too much fun in university.
I would say it was too much fun, thankfully, because of my seniors who have created such a lovely and warm atmosphere in getting to know people. Think about it this way. You wouldn't want to have your university life fully just focusing on academics, fully just centered to just your circle of friends within your own course. It wouldn't be the most ideal form of student life, I would say. And this is something that I believe many people would be interested to get their hands into and meeting more people. Now, wondering apart from these orientation camps and platforms to get to know people, Prof, my question for you would be, what would you say that most students would do outside of school in terms of their career that you have heard of, before I share into my portion?
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. So we have actual data for this. So most of our students, so 60 to 70%, I mean, it differs from year to year, but roughly that's a good estimate. And every year we track our students. Most of them end up in the civil service, so 60 to 70%. And across all ministries, MINDEF, Minister of Home Affairs, Minister of Foreign Affairs is extremely popular. So you think about the top jobs in the civil service, we have a lot of our students there. So MCI, Minister of Communication and Information, MSF, MCC, all the different ministries, you have SSS representatives there. We also have a lot of, so 30 to 40% of our students are in the private sector. So SSS students that I know, they are in TikTok. One of them is in a spin company doing marketing. They do, some of them are managers, one of them is managing Grab. You know, there are many one is doing Bitcoin, right, doing in an investment firm. Another is doing PR. So there are numerous job opportunities, and it really speaks to the nature of it speaks to two things. One is the nature of social sciences. It allows for a more general understanding, because you are trained in terms of critical thinking. Trained in terms of critical thinking, and a lot of employers really value that. And I am not trying to sell, well, I am trying to sell SSS to you, but I am not kidding with this. And you speak to a SSS student, a social science student, and you see the level in critical thinking that student, right? And it differs from a non-SSS student, I think, and employers do appreciate that. So generally they can get into all sorts of industries, except the very specific ones, you know, medicine, law, and so on. So even in a Bitcoin company where they may not have technical expertise, some of them need to write reports, right? And they can train our students to, and this is what happened to one of our students, right? They train on the technical aspect, but she is doing all the research, all the writing, and so on. And the other thing it speaks to is also the reputation NTU SSS has among employers, and it's a pretty good reputation, right? So before I get to the salaries of our students, and I have some data for that, right? I also wanted to show the indicative grade profile, if you could share that, Kada, so of our students who come in. But bear in mind that these numbers change from year to year. Right, they change from year to year. So this is a rough estimate. And as you can see, for our double major programs, think about econs and public policy and global affairs, environmental sciences and public policy and global affairs. You have psych and business. You have different double major programs. So these are the bar to entry is pretty high. So for poly students, it's between 3.77 to 3.97. And then you can see the numbers there. So roughly it's between 3.64, 3.62 to 3.9, right? Those are the profile of our students. But again, these are rough numbers. What if you do not meet these numbers? Because these are from previous years. We also have interviews, right? They do not people who do not meet these grades, we do have interviews, and we may look at your service, we may look at other factors, because we understand also these are just indicators, they are not perfect, right? So we understand that. That's why we have the aptitude-based admissions. So similarly for JC students, A-level students, you have you can see the profile. So it's pretty high as well. So our 90th percentile, so top 10% students, all triple A's. But so for the 10th percentile, you have ABCs, AAB, AAC, and so on. Again, for double majors is the highest, right? So our students are pretty good, and we do expect a certain standard. But again, we look, and I have interviewed many students who didn't meet this. but they were outstanding in other ways, right? And we also, as social scientists, we should be the first school that understands the role of inequality in grades, for instance. So we do factor all of that into account. So we look at the non-academic aspect as well, right? And if you're unclear about anything, feel free to ask us, right? If you think, oh, I do not meet this, should I apply? My first answer will always be yes, go ahead and apply. And secondly, if you're still unsure, you can speak to me or anybody else about it, right? You can just get out my email and you can ask me about it, right? And just some figures that I wanted to show, just to whet our prospective students' appetites, right? So this our numbers from 2021, and if you look at 2021 is the COVID year, right? So in a COVID year, see at employment rate within a few months of graduating, you have the lowest is 83%, which is very high, right? And the highest is 93%, 94% almost. And that's extraordinary. And we are very proud of this. And for the next graduate employment survey, we are pretty sure the numbers will be even higher. You look at the mean and median salary, this is extremely, extremely competitive. Because you cannot, you have to be realistic. I saw a Today article where some students were saying their first salary, they expect to get $10,000. That's not realistic. That's not live. But these numbers are pretty high. And by the way, these are public numbers. You can just Google them. You can get them for other schools as well. I'm very proud to say that our numbers are just as good as other schools. Okay, so these are the things I wanted to speak on. But since Kada have asked me questions, I wanted to put him on the spot as well. I wanted to ask him some questions, right? So Kada, what are some of the most interesting modules you have taken from Triple S? Right?
So, building on to what Prof. Walid you have mentioned earlier on about how SSS students are working with a broad group of audience and preparing themselves in this 21st century itself, right? I would say that my favorite modules, there's too many of them. But if I could have to narrow it down to it, okay, there are these top views that I have in mind on slide. Now, I'm someone who appreciates the applied work of studies, knowing that there is something that we can translate into in our day-to-day living. I will always want to have a module that is interesting to me, something that gives me a new perspective. Within the School of Social Sciences, as a psychology major, one of my favorite modules is positive psychology. And one thing that my professor has done to really get everyone to think what we are exposed to on a day-to-day could be a movie analysis. Now, something that we see on mainstream media, we see certain movies being played out, and what can we learn from these movies from the psychological point of view? Now, it's not just being a typical consumer. As a social sciences student, when we look at it, can we infer certain things? Are there certain lessons we can take away? Now, if you could see on the top right corner of the slide itself, this from the movie On the Pursuit of Happiness, starring Will Smith. And we were looking at how has the character that he is acting over, Chris Gardner, has been applying the views of resiliency. How did he keep bouncing back amidst all the adversities he has gone through? How did he cope with that stress itself? What does he do? And what can we learn from that? Now, this is something that puts you in a place where you have to relate it back to your own personal life. Is there things that you could draw relevance to? Is there something that gives you a broader or deeper meaning and a new perspective on things? That is the applied nature and one of my favorite modules out there. Now, beyond just that itself, another psychology module that me and my friends wanted to try something interesting. Okay, when it comes to us group assignments, there are times that professors give you the liberty and the option to choose any topic that you want, as long as it fits the certain criteria set out in the descriptor. On the module on cognitive development, when we are looking at how the human mind nurtures and develops in certain areas of thinking, me and my friend wanted to work something that is We thought of it as funny at first, but as we spend more time thinking about it, we thought it's very interesting to look at it. How do children think about sarcasm? Now, we use sarcasm in our day-to-day life, don't get me wrong. It is something that might become second nature to us as we grow older. But where did the idea of sarcasm come from? And at what age can you begin to understand sarcasm? And at what age can you then process and use sarcasm onto others to differentiate the literal and intended meaning when we speak? Now, that is something that we had a chance to propose a research experiment, and we also had a chance to present to a professor who specialized in cognitive development. Now, those modules itself are within the School of Social Sciences, but it is not just great modules in School of Social Sciences. There are more modules within the NTU curriculum that you and I as students, we can pursue further. Now, on the bottom left, one of the things that I wanted to do was to pick out a language. And in your university life, when I looked at it, for me, who is someone who wants to work with people and interacting with people in Singapore across the different population groups, one language that I found to be relevant and helpful would be to take up the Malay language. And I had a chance to take it at 3 different levels across 3 different semesters. It was painful, admittedly, because picking out a language is not something that you can just easily switch over. It takes time to process, takes time to interact with one another and get comfortable and familiar with the language. And one of the things that we get to learn beyond just the language is also the culture within the Malay community. We had a chance to go down to Arab streets. We had a chance to eat Malay cuisines. We had a chance to visit the exhibitions itself, get to know what is the culture for the Malay community led by our instructor. And this, I would say, picking a language, it's something that we say you either use it or lose it. It puts you in a position where you have to work really hard for it, just like any other modules. And last but not least, I'm not sure if I have chance to share with Prof. Walid also, but I'm also pursuing a minor program, a minor in youth work and guidance with the National Institute of Education. With the youth work setting, one of the projects that I had a chance to deliver was to work at a children's home for a period of time and deliver a program for them that we have worked out with the organization. What is it that they see there's a need for, and how us as university students from different disciplines that we can come together and provide something that is of benefit and is of use to the children at this children's home. And I believe that across all these different modules out there, it really trains us and prepares us for the workforce. And what do you think about this part itself, Prof. Walid?
100%, 100%. I think that was the best advert you could give for NTU students and NTU social sciences, because whenever I do my introductory talk for SSS students, I always tell them my biggest regret in university was not picking up a third language, and I strongly urge you guys to pick that up. So for you, it makes perfect sense to pick up Malay, politically, culturally, but also economically, right? Because the market is going to be, and the government is encouraging that. And for the minority students, I'll tell them Mandarin is an option. But our language center, we have numerous languages, right? We have German, French, Arabic increasingly becoming popular. So we have all sorts of languages. So that's the first. And the other thing I always tell people is pick up another to strengthen your CV, pick up a minor, a second major, whatever it is that you can do. And you are already doing that, Kada. And we also have numerous minor programs that you can access. You can take a look at our prospectus. You can look at the second major programs that we offer. We have the this is together with your first major, of course, and the minor programs which you really should take advantage of. But on our part, we give you the opportunities to do this. And this, I don't know how other universities do it, but for us, there are numerous opportunities to do this, right? So, Kada, you already talked about student life just now. I just wanted to ask, is there anything you wanted to add on about student life before we open it up to the Q&A?
Sure. I think to close up on the student life itself, there are a lot of opportunities for CCA. And one of the CCAs that I'm committed to is the Welfare Services Club, the community service arm of NTU, in which there is chance for you to work with different population groups in the community and also take up leadership positions. And for me, working with university students in promoting volunteerism, working with other university students in enriching the lives of youths under the regular service project youth, and also understanding and befriending persons with intellectual disabilities. Now, this is just one of the many 100 over CCAs NTU has to offer, which gives us the holistic student life itself. Now, perhaps we can hear from questions from the ground as to what our audience curious to find out more about. And the first question that we have, Professor, could you share more about the double major and second major programs offered by School of Social Sciences, and what's the differences between the two programs?
Okay, so thank you so much. So the double major programs, majors, you have to apply. When you apply, you enter as a double major student. So I mentioned the double major programs that we have. So one that is fully housed in our school is Econs and Public Policy and Global Affairs. As I said, you have Psych and Business, you have Environmental Sciences and Public Policy and Global Affairs. So you have these different double major combinations. So when you come in, you are an ECPP student, for instance, Econs and Public Policy and Global Affairs. So you do 50-50, 50% Econs, 50% PPGA, right? So this is a double major program. A second major program is slightly different. So you come in as a first major, and then you can declare the second major later on, and you have different combinations for that as well. And the second major will not be as intense as the first major. So it's not 50-50, but it's still far more substantial than a minor, right? The question wasn't asked, but the minor, it's much fewer, the modules that you have to do, just 5 or 6, and that's the requirement for a minor. Of course, there's specific modules that you have to do for each different major, and you have a wide variety as well for us that's available to SSS students. So I hope that answered the question.
Yep. And moving on to our next question, also within the academic curriculum. So one of our audience asked, you mentioned that internship is compulsory, and in which year will I get to go for internship?
Right. So it will depend on each student's schedule, but we have a recommended schedule for the students, right? So as you know, Kada, when you come in, then we have a recommended study plan. In SEM 1, you do this number of modules. These are the core modules you have to do in SEM 2, and so on. So of course, the problem with the internships, or not the problem, the challenge with the internships is we cannot release all our students in one semester, right? Then the demand will outweigh the supply, right? So it will be over a few semesters, SEM year 2, SEM 2, year 3, SEM 1, year 3, SEM 2. But we are, of course, there are, let's say a student comes to us and say, I have an internship opportunity with Meta, but I have to go in year 4, SEM 1. We'll work something out. We will work something out, right? But for us, in terms of the compulsory internship, it will be during those few SEMs. We have to plan it accordingly, such that we must make sure that our students will be able to learn something.
And beyond to what Prof. Wali shared about internship, there are platforms within NTU that gives you the chance to look at the possible internship places that you can go with. The Career and Attachment Office was one of the places that I sought help to find my internship placement, in which they also offer other services such as helping us to look through our resume and CV,
Yes.
looking at our cover letter, how can we pitch ourselves and present ourselves to our prospective internship employers
Right.
themselves. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kadam. Because the CAO is really excellent resource, because they will really help you just fine tune some of the things. And they have a lot of experience, that these are people who have been headhunted, and they were headhunters also. So they know what firms are looking for. So they will tell you how to tweak your CV, what is the thing you need to emphasize or you need to de-emphasize, and so on. So the CAO is available to all students, not just Triple L students, all students in NTU, and they are always more than happy to help. So the CAO has helped a few of our students as well. So I remember last year, one of our students was having difficulties. She was in her final year. She was having difficulties even landing an interview, and she wasn't sure why, because her grades were okay. So I directed her to the CAO. The CAO said, oh, the CV wasn't done in a proper way. They helped her write the CV, rewrite the CV. Within a few weeks, she got called up for 2 or 3 interviews. Yeah, and she's employed now. One of the 3 she landed, and she chose that. So yeah, sometimes it's not that the students are not capable, but it's maybe how you market yourself. And we have all these services around NTU to help us with that.
And if I could add on itself, there are also tools that the Career Attachment Office has purchased, such as the VMOC itself that looks at a resume using artificial intelligence. How can they enhance and heighten this? But going back to the interview, topic on interview, Prof, like one of our audience have asked questions regarding the general interview questions that interviewers may have for those of them who are considering to go to School of Social Sciences and they are looking at the interview. How can they prepare themselves for such interviews?
Right. So firstly, of course, like how you prepare for all interviews, right? What you need to do is, when you prepare for all interviews, you need to know what the major is, right? So if you are going for, so this is an interview for the program, right, Kada? That's the question. So if
Yes.
you are doing econs interview, you're not expected to know everything, of course, because you haven't done the degree yet, but at least know what roughly it is about. Why do you want to do it? And one of the questions I always ask people, right, is tell me what is a book you're reading, right? And I know that that is a difficult question, because a lot of people don't read books anymore now. But if you show that you are reading a book that is related to the major that you're doing, that tells me you're serious about the major, right? So these are some questions, some tips that, other than, of course, let's say you are doing that you applied for public policy, right? I think it's fair for me to ask, what is one public policy that you would like to modify or change in Singapore? If you are applying for econs, I would say, what is one thing related to the economy that you find troubling or you would change, right? And likewise for psych and sociology as well, right? So just now I wanted to elaborate on the double major programs as well. So if you go to our Triple S website, you will see the availability of our double major programs. So econs, media analytics, econs, public policy and global affairs, psychology and media analytics, sorry, just now, and econs and psychology. I think I mentioned business and psychology. It's econs and psychology. So we have these double major programs, and the other one is environmental science and public policy and global affairs. Yeah, so these are all available on our prospectus, on our socials as well. And you have there the Instagram. So please, you can follow us on Instagram, on YouTube as well.
Yep, thank you, Prof. Walid, for those. Now, we can move on to more course-specific questions.
Sure.
One of the questions is asking with regards to the Public Policy and Global Affairs course. Do Public Policy and Global Affairs students get to visit the Parliament often for parliamentary sittings to record down notes that are useful for any projects?
Okay, so this is a good question. So I don't know whether people know, but parliamentary sittings, any Singaporean can visit them, can view the parliamentary sittings. So you go to parliament, you just go on a day that's is sitting, you can just go to the top. And I've done this a few times. Now, do we organize these trips? So I actually tried previously to organize one parliamentary session where we wanted to have a parliament tour and also speak to the Speaker of Parliament. But then COVID hit at about the same time. So that plan was shelved, right? So we have not done that, but we intend to do that as well. But that will not be like something major, something every week where PPGA students go to Parliament and do that. But we have other sorts of things. In the past, what we did was we got students to be attached to Meet the People sessions, for instance, as part of our one of the courses, one of the programs. We also have a lot of learning journeys outside. We have invited speakers. A lot of times, every SEM, I will have one guest speaker for my module. So last year, I had the Ms. Chua Mi Hong, one of the editors of Straits Times, to share with us on the state of the media in Singapore and so on. So we have all of this. These are within the academic program, but they are not exactly, they are part of the syllabus, but they are not exactly study, right? It's basically the way we understand education is much broader.
Thank you, Prof, on this. And one of the questions was putting psychology program, perhaps I can answer on behalf. The question is looking at what would be the unique points of NTU psychology program. And for NTU program, what I would say is that there is a diverse range of modules from different sub-disciplines of psychology, be it at the developmental level of psychology, working with children, be it to the applied fields of psychology, such as industrial organization, clinical psychology, and so forth. These fields itself, I would say we engage practitioners even from the different fields right now in Singapore to give us the real life examples in working experience. How is it like when we integrate these theoretical concepts into a practical point of view? Perhaps the term of scientific practitioner model is something that we hear about very often in the realm of social sciences, not just looking at things from a theory, academic point of view, but bringing to the practitioner. How can we then apply all this learning from social sciences literature? The next question that we have, perhaps for Prof. Walid to answer, what scholarships do School of Social Sciences offer?
Yeah, so we have a few types of scholarship, right? So one is at the university level. So you have a University Scholars Program, for instance. So quite a few of our students are USP scholars. Second one, you have at the college level, you have the different types of scholarship. And you also have the double major scholarships as well. So the double major scholarships where you give to the students, the outstanding students in the double major programs. Beyond that, we also have, for instance, sometimes we have grants. So this is for existing students already. We have grants where people pledge certain amounts to be given to SSS students. So for instance, there is this particular foundation that pledge a sizable amount to be given to 5 PPGA students every year. Right? It's a sizable amount. And that is based on the holistic aspect. So it will be academics plus CCAs and service, right? So that is after you enter. But before you enter, you have that university level, college level, double major. So these are all relevant for our SSS students.
And on to another administrative related question. What is the chance of a polytechnic student with unrelated course background getting accepted into a School of Social Sciences program?
Yeah, so the chances, if you meet the scores, the chances are pretty high as well. Again, so also when that person says unrelated, I'm assuming that person means engineering or something, right? So because almost every other course would be slightly related still, right? Or at least tangentially related, right? So yes, we do have students from those courses as well. We do not see that as an impediment. Again, there will be interviews and so on. And if you are really interested, we'll do that. A lot of the JC students, just to give an analogy, and I'm not sure how much it fits, but I think it's a good analogy, right? Our JC students, a lot of them are from the sciences, not from the art stream, right? So we have JC students from the sciences, and then they're doing social sciences instead of going into the hard sciences um, in university, right? So we do not see that as a disadvantage. In fact, it could be that, oh, now you have perspectives of different fields of study, and that is not a bad thing. Kada, you yourself were from Polytechnic. Maybe you want to share a little bit?
Now, for me, I studied a diploma in psychology back in Polytechnic and entered the psychology program. But within my circle of friends and the people that I know of, we have other students from other courses, be it from business, be it from mass communication. They do also enter psychology program, despite have studied something different back in Poly. So I would say, no fears, apply for it, go for it.
Absolutely.
Take it as it go and see how we go
Yeah.
from
It's
there.
not an impediment. Yeah.
That is right. Now, there are a few other questions. Perhaps we're going to round it out to our last question. And one of the most popular one would be, what is the typical schedule like for a School of Social Sciences student? Before I answer, I'm curious to hear what Prof. Walid thinks a typical School of Social Science student's schedule is kind of like.
Oh, so a typical triple S, what I think a triple S student should do, right?
Yes.
So wake up at 6:30 a.m., go for a run or exercise, and then come back. And I find that the best time to write for me personally is between 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. So you start writing, not researching, that's writing. And then you can go for classes, have lunch, come back and study, and then at night go for CCAs or socials, right? Now, I know that probably doesn't happen, but that's what I would like a triple S student schedule to be like. But so maybe you can bring me down back to earth, Kada?
Well, what I made, the exercise part itself is something that I can't relate to early in the morning, but I do know of friends who do exercise very early. Waking up not so early if you stay in hall, that would be something, a huge perk of being in the hall life itself. As we go for classes, we do spend some time at lunch across hopping around the different canteens in NTU. Going for our lectures, going for our seminars. After school, that's where the fun kind of becomes a lot more escalated, because you have a lot of different activities, be it at the hall, be it at your CCA level, and so forth. At night, supper hop is something that is popular among all those who stay in hall, particularly if you are gathering with a group of friends and you just want to have conversations about anything in life, or even working together on your assignments or group projects. So that, I would say, is a typical School of Social Sciences students' life, as with many other NTU students out there. Now, with that, we have now come to the end of this segment over here. But we would want to answer other questions that other students have raised. What we would recommend is to go online to our online chat platforms, in which our student ambassadors are there. They are also representing of the different courses within the School of Social Sciences. So feel free to engage them over to the online platform. Now, with that, thank you, Prof. Walid, for your time today in sharing.
Thank you so much, Kada, and thank you, everyone. Please do join Triple S.
And with that, our next talk will be Why Politics at 1 p.m. So if you're on the NTU Open House microsite, you will be able to view the list of talks for our school under the College of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences. So with that, thank you, everyone, and have a good day ahead.